SumProduct is a very useful function. I don't really use it as often as I should. There are more ways of using it than what I'm going to show you now. I'm just going to show you some of the basics and the structure of the formula. I would encourage you to watch my other videos on SumIfs and filter. That's the formula filter. The results are similar as what you're going to get with SumIfs, and the structure of the formula is similar to filter. I think it's just better to understand those formulas than come on to this one. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got some data here: months, SKU, category, part description, price, quantity. I've added a total here just to do our checks, but we're actually going to do all our sums without having these totals here. So this is where SumProduct is useful. First of all, I'm just going to do a sum of everything, this whole data range here. I've just got the IT products for every month of the year, just 1 year's worth of data. If I just scroll to the bottom, you can see that. So the first thing I can do is equals SumProduct, open bracket, array. So each time we're going to be selecting a range. So our first array is the price, and our next array is the quantity. And then it's going to multiply them together and give us our answer, rather than us having to add another column, working out the total for each line, then adding all of those together. So the first part is this range here, Control Shift arrow down, comma, quantity, Control Shift arrow down, close bracket, enter. There's our result. I'm just going to add it as a currency so it's a bit clearer. If I highlight our totals column, so this is just our check, just to show you how this is working. So our sum for everything, and that's our answer at the bottom there, which matches our answer here. So I've managed to get this total without using this total. I've just selected the price and the quantity. We're going to start adding criteria to narrow down our results, because obviously we wouldn't really use SumProduct. We're more likely to add a total here and then just do a sum on this. This was just to show you the basic structure and the simplest thing that SumProduct can do. When we start adding criteria, we're then not going to be able to use the comma here. We actually have to use an asterisk or some sort of numerator. So I'm just going to use asterisks. That's going to be like my and. In another example over here, we'll show you an or where we use our plus. So that's similar to the structure of when we write the filter formula. Might not make sense right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and write the formula, then hopefully it'll make more sense. So our formula for our laptop one is pretty much this formula here, but just at the beginning, I'm going to write our criteria specifying that this SKU here has to be IT003, which are the laptops. Or I could use the part description and type the word laptops, but I'm just going to use the SKU. So here equals SumProduct. So just to make it easier to understand, I'm just going to do the same formula before, then I'll add the criteria in at the beginning. So here, SumProduct, price, Control Shift arrow down. Rather than a comma, I'm using my asterisks, and then I'm selecting my quantities, Control Shift arrow down. So let's just finish that, just to get the same result as we did before, just to make sure that's correct. So that's the same. I'm just going to format Painter this here. So now let's add in our laptop criteria. So in here, my array is going to be my SKU. So that's this column here, this range, equals, and I'm going to type it in quotation marks, IT003 is our laptop SKU. And then I need my asterisks. What I also need is a set of brackets around my criteria. So in here, let's add the brackets. So my criteria is in brackets, and I've got an asterisk in between each of those. And this was the original part of the formula here with the price and the quantity. Let's press enter. I'm just going to filter this to check it's correct. That's why I've got this little total grayed out here. I'm just going to pick it here because laptops is going to be my IT003. Then I just select these here. And that's 208500, which is there. Control Shift L to remove those filters and toggle them back on again. So rather than write the SKU, I'm actually going to type in here IT003, and here I'm writing in March. So we're adding in another criteria. We just want to return the sales for laptops in March. And in a more useful scenario, this is where you'd use your data validations and have a drop down so you could select different part numbers and different months each time. I have done that in previous videos, so I'm not going to do this here. This formula is a little bit more complicated than some of the others, so I'm just going to focus on the actual formula itself for this video. It's pretty much going to be exactly the same as this, but we're just going to add in the criteria for the month as well, and that needs to be in its own brackets too. But let's do it from scratch. Equals SumProduct. Let's do the easy bit first, the price and the quantity, and no, don't have to worry about the brackets for that one. So Control Shift arrow down, asterisk, Control Shift arrow down, close bracket. And let's just make sure we've done this part right before we complicate it and see that we get the same result in our first example. Yes, that's okay. I'm just going to use the Format Painter again. If I click the Format Painter twice, I can actually use it on multiple. So I'm just going to do that there. And then escape just to get out of it. And then double click here. There we go. So that's correct so far. We've got the right total, and then we can start adding in our criteria with SumProduct. Rather than do the whole formula, get it wrong, and then come back with an error and not really know what you've done, it's good to build it up like this in the beginning. So let's start adding our criteria. We want the SKU to be IT003, so let's select the whole range, Control Shift arrow down, equals, rather than manually type it, I've already written it in a cell so I can reference that cell. We need this in its own brackets. That's the first criteria. Asterisk, second criteria, let's just open the bracket now. And that's going to be our month needs to be March. So let's select that range, Control Shift arrow down, equals March. Close bracket, and we just need another asterisk there. So each criteria here in its own brackets there, and we've got the asterisk in between each criteria. There we go. So let's just look up here. So the criteria where you have an equal sign, that's where you need your brackets. If you're just selecting the range, you don't need them there for these two. So that's just the price and the quantity, but this is where we're actually specifying that this range needs to equal this, and same for that one. So that's why we need to put those in brackets, and that's our answer. I can actually just see it here. March laptops 12,500, so that's correct. So that's our and. So we've narrowed it down to laptops and March. We can use or. So we want to look at laptops or mobile phones. So we just want to look at the sum for laptops or mobile phones, and that's in any month. Okay, sum or. So let's do that as we did before. Just put their part numbers here so we can reference them in our formula. Equals SumProduct. Let's do the easy bit as we did before, where we do our price and quantity. Control Shift arrow down, asterisk, Control Shift arrow down, close bracket, enter. Let's just check we've got the right answer first before we carry on. Yes, we have. Now we need to add our criteria, and this time we need to use our plus instead of the asterisk for the criteria, just in between the criteria part. The plus sign is our or option rather than and. So SumProduct, we're going to use our SKUs. We're going to use this column for both our criteria because they're both going to be in the SKU column. That's why it's an or. It couldn't be an and, because you can't have one of these SKUs being both IT001 and 003. It has to be one or the other. So this is or. So it's going to return us the result for the laptops or the mobile phones. So both. So let's select, Control Shift arrow down, select equals this. I need to put it in its own brackets. And the plus sign. And my next one, it's the same column again, Control Shift arrow down, equals this. Put it in its own brackets. I do actually need to put this in another set of brackets, the whole or statement here. And I just need this here. So we've got our two criteria of the SKU matching IT003 or IT001, that in their own brackets, and then that together in a set of brackets. Then you just got your asterisks for the price and quantity. 243380. Mobile and laptop. 243380. So that's correct. With SumProduct, if you're struggling with it, it's either because you're getting your and or your or mixed up. And is very specific. The other reason why you might not get the answer you want is because you haven't got your brackets correctly. Let's just add one more in here. We're going to just say that it needs to be in March as well. So that's going to be our and. Control Shift arrow down equals March, and put that in its own brackets. And I could probably just look down here, laptops and mobile phones, 14980. That's correct. Let's just change this and to or and just see what happens. And I just might need to change my bracket there to go on the outside of this one instead. So all of these statements are inside their own brackets. 343. So it's laptops, mobile phones, or March. So let's just have a look. So March, I'm just going to left click here and copy that, paste it there, and then just put our filters on, mobile phones and laptops. Okay, just highlight that, and if I just left click here, I'm just going to remove our filters and then paste that there. 343,600. So that's what that result is everything in March, everything for laptops and everything for mobile phones. And let's just alter this one as well, and let's just say or May. So we're just going to say Control Shift arrow down equals, and I'm just going to type it, that's why I picked May, it's a short one. So I'm going to put my brackets here and here, and I'm also going to put this part, where I've got the 2 months, in its own brackets there. 28,500. So this is going to be more than it was before, because before it was just this value here, 12,500. It was just laptops in March. So now we've got laptops in March, and if we scroll down for laptops in May, that's at 28,500. So you're probably going to need to do a few examples with your asterisks and your pluses, just for your and your or, and where you're putting your brackets. So for this one, we've changed it to laptops in either March or May. That's actually just the basics for SumProduct. It can do a lot more for data analysis, but I think for this video, I'll just leave it there.